inside the 5 Series, first things first, is you got to get your Costa. Because, oh, I need to hoover that. Hello guys, today we have an F10 520D from 2011, this particular one from 2014.
And we got an E60 520D from 2007, first designed in 2003. So quite a big age difference, but only one model year apart. But is it worth the upgrade? Pretty much the same car, 7 years in these particular cars. Is it worth your extra few £1,000s? That's what we're going to find out today.
Is newer always better?
So we'll start with the E60. Obviously this is designed quite a while ago now, first came out 17 years ago, so it's not a young shape by any means. However, we absolutely love the styling of it. You can see here, you've got this sort of crease that goes all the way down the car, gives it this nice body line all along the side. Obviously this is the M Sport, so you've got slightly beefier side splitters and the alloys as well. Obviously with this car being a little bit older, it is a bit hard to show a direct comparison because obviously like the alloys are going to need a bit of a refurb on this car, but we absolutely love it's like this simple design. Modern cars, as you'll see, they get sort of a little bit complicated. This is just a nice clean body line all the way through, even coming down the front here. It just works its way around nicely. Got this crease in the bonnet, just this really nice styling. And at the time, this was a huge step from the E39. The E39 looks like a proper 90s car. This was probably about 5 years ahead of its time when it was first released in 2003. People were like, what on earth is going on? Then by the time you get to like 2010 and all that sort of stuff, you're thinking, actually, this is a really good car. And now when I got this as well, it's just one of those really good looking cars that most people would want to have. And obviously finished it off nicely with the nice front end, nice twin grills that aren't anything crazy. They're just there, the nice shape. Obviously the bonnet line coming just above them as well. So overall it's just a really nice clean version. Then we get to the F10, and in my opinion it's not it's not as good looking. It just isn't. However, we'll get into reasons why that might be in a little moment. But to continue around the outside, one thing we don't really like is how the bonnet line is sort of above the badge. It is a little bit weird. You can already see that the grills are starting to get like a little bit bigger already. Obviously that goes a bit more crazy, but it's just like a little bit less sort of designing around them. Then just to finish off on the bonnet, actually, what is this all about? Like, why is there a crease in the middle of the bonnet? It makes no sense at all. And they've crudely tried to bring it around the bottom of the badge. I don't know. It just doesn't really work. Obviously this isn't the M Sport, so it's not a direct comparison, but it's close enough. And then coming up the side of the car, what is this? Like, it doesn't do anything. It's not an indicator. It's just a bit of plastic. It's just kind of a bit slapped together. And then coming up here, we've got this massive crease. This massive crease that sort of goes in, this like weird ripple effect. Obviously it's trying to mimic the door handle lines, but we're not all about it. And then you get here and it's like I'll try and get out the shadows so you can see it a bit better, but what is that? Like, there's just too many angles going on. And then obviously it's finished with this rear end with the light. I'm not such a big fan of it. I like the white that I've got on mine, sort of the white clear lens that it's got. And obviously wrapping around, it gets to the more modern safety features. So we've got the reflectors that a lot of people hate, sort of globally. And then obviously to finish the rear end, it's just sort of like, just doesn't really do anything. Like, it's just like they just put it there and they didn't really sort of think much about it. But that's sort of the outside of the car, and I think we're going to move on to the inside to give you some reasons as to why this might be a little bit more sort of boring and generic.
Moving inside the car, a little bit annoying about these BMWs of this era is that you have to unlock it on the outside, but there's no keyhole. So why not just make the whole thing keyless go? I'm sure it's not that much different if you've already got the signal. Anyway, moving on to my favourite bit of this car is the interior. It is so comfortable in here and a big improvement over the previous generation. The seats are lovely and comfortable, heated, You've got a nice huge screen with navigation, automatic climate control, you name it, Bluetooth, all the rest. Obviously the older generation not having Bluetooth is a different thing. Dash looks lovely. Overall, it's lovely in here, and I think that's one of the biggest things about this car. It's so quiet, nice place to be. Now moving to the older generation, you unlock the car and you have somewhere to put your key. Why not? It works fine. Turning it on, it's a little bit more agricultural being old. The screen is tiny, which I don't like too much, but you still have your auto climate control, and you know, it's still a lovely place to be, and I would be more than comfortable in this, but the newer one is more comfortable. However, it's still a nice place to be, and there's no problem doing hundreds of thousands of miles in this.
There are many reasons as to why these cars changed over the years. Obviously the design points, they are 8 years apart, and in 8 years, that is a long time, really long time in fact. Cars change, what people want change, and with this was sort of that early 2000s, like yes, this is what we can do. Obviously the 90s cars were all sort of very sort of basic and sort of one angle, one line, and this was sort of that car that sort of got into everyone's minds, oh yeah, this is what's possible. Then if you look, loads of mid-early 2000s cars are like that. Then you get to this, and by this point we're already getting into modern cars. I mean, it's already 2014. 2014 is obviously when Formula E came about, when F1 went hybrid. That was quite a big year for things sort of moving in a modern direction, and people's ideas change as to what they wanted in a car. And with this one especially, this was that first intermediate generation where they started getting everything sort of okay, sort of nice, not necessarily being outlandish. They just want it to be a comfortable place to be. They want people to be able to drive it every single day and enjoy it. And I think that is why this car is the way it is. They didn't want it to stand out. They didn't want it to be anything crazy. They just wanted it to fit in, be your average daily driver. It's got a 2-litre diesel engine. It just does what it needs to. And that, to be honest, has sort of taken away a little bit, maybe the fun factor and the cool factor of the car, but overall it's a better car. I think everyone can agree that that is a better car to drive on a daily basis. It's not meant for fast driving, it's not meant to do anything. This was meant to be fun and crazy and wacky and a bit different. This, it's just like, yeah, we'll just get in it every day, starts up, take the kids to school. So as we will see over the next 10 or 15 years, it's going to change again. I mean, obviously all the modern cars are already getting really sort of angle related with their design and things like that. So it's going to get even more crazy. But this was that weird intermediate generation that kind of works, kind of doesn't work. So overall, we like the car. Not to say the styling, because it is a little bit boring. But I personally would have this, which is why I do. Am I going to upgrade to this anytime soon? Probably not. Probably not, because I want something that's a bit like that. That's a bit more crazy, looks a little bit more different, whereas this, any geezer can come pick this up. So if you want a nice car, get this one. If you want something that's a little bit more wacky, a little bit more character related, then you're going to get this one. However, it's only, let's say, £3 extra to get one of these. Maybe I could start getting into realms of affording this soon, but I don't think I'm going to do it. You let us know in the comments.
But as you can see, inside is a place you want to be, and you could do so many miles without getting tired, and that's the point of this car. You can just get in it every day, you can do your motorway miles, and you can be happy, and that's the point of this car. Not to say that the old one is bad. It's a lot better than a lot of cars. However, this is better at being a car. What a car fundamentally comes down to. Maybe it's not the best driver's car. Maybe the steering wheel's a little bit ugly. But when you're actually driving it, it's so easy, which is what you want. It does everything you need on a daily basis perfectly. There is nothing wrong with this car. It is only personal preference. And personally, I think this is better than the E-Class of the same year. And I would rather drive this every day than the old 520D. However, I would much prefer the M5 version of the E60, because I think it was way more wacky and crazy and just a lot more fun. We shall see one day when we drive all those things. And the reason someone would want one of these cars is because it's still roughly the originals from 2003, so you still get some feel, you're still more likely to get a manual transmission if you want one, and I wouldn't mind getting a 3.5D version of this, or maybe a 4 litre or an M5 version of this, which would be insane with that V10. Just has a little bit more character. It just seemed as though they were designing it a lot more than the newer one, which is to do for your businessman, to go and do big miles. And that's, you know, this wanted to try and get two parts of the market, which the newer one is just aimed at driving it every day, which is fine. But if you wanted a bit more character, I think this one's better. It's what I go back to with all modern cars. Most of them, it's very rare you get one that is, they're all so refined now, it loses the character. They're just perfect now. And having the non-perfection is kind of where you get the fun. Now, if you're wondering which is faster, don't. There's no point. They're both a 520D. They're going to get you where you need to go, and they're more than enough poke. Forget about the numbers. These will do 80 miles an hour at 2,000 RPM, and that's all you need.
And so regarding the performance of this, as Alex just mentioned, they are the same speed, but also they get the same MPG. You don't actually get much more, like in terms of the actual performance and the sort of the daily drivability, the economy from getting a newer car. So that's not really a massive factor. And regarding maintenance, I mean, at the end of the day, they're both, you know, roughly, let's say £40,000 brand new. So they're going to have their £40,000 car issues as well. So, and in fact, this, it probably has some things that you can't actually do yourself, because that's what modern cars just end up being. So this might actually be cheaper to maintain as well. So overall, you can't necessarily say it's cheaper getting the newer car. And also, it being 6 years old already, it is going to have things that are starting to go wrong with it. So from a cost factor as well, I don't think there's actually going to be too much difference. I mean, I've had this car just over 3 years now, and I literally haven't done anything to it apart from the obvious. So, I mean, there's been a couple of things here and there, like the alternator died and things like that, but I mean, that happens on loads of cars that we see secondhand. So I don't think there's really too much of a difference. And at the end of the day, if you're buying a car like that, you're going to be prepared to spend your £300 fixing your alternator. That's going to happen. So overall, there isn't really too much difference between the car. This one's more of a daily driver. This one's more if you're actually into like your BMWs as such. Has a bit more character. They're so similar, it's kind of down to preference. And with these depreciating even more in the next couple of years, I think you're going to see a lot of people driving these around.
Now, I know, 520Ds, not that exciting. However, perfect every day. And I'd love to drive this every day, or that every day. But if you like this video, please subscribe, give us a like, and I'll see you next time.